Students, welcome! Today I'm going to make you understand astrology once and for all.
Here is a chart of my personal planets and the zodiac signs that they're in. As you can see, there is a planet on the left and there is a zodiac sign on the right. However, why are those planets in those zodiac signs? What determines that? Constellations are groups of stars that form into perceived patterns.
There is a constellation for each zodiac sign. These are real constellations that exist in our solar system, and the planet and the sign that it is in is determined by where it was orbiting around the sun and what constellation it happened to be in front of at that moment. For example, if the planet Mercury happened to be here at the time of your birth, then your Mercury would be in the sign Scorpio. There are 12 zodiac signs, each containing elements, modalities, and unique characteristics.
Zodiac signs work in chronological order, with the first sign being Aries and the last sign being Pisces.
There are astrological symbols for each zodiac sign, planet, asteroid, and other things of this nature. You don't need to worry about that right now, but it's good for later. Our planets act as influences in our soul's journey. The sun is our identity, the moon is our internal world, the Mercury is how we communicate, the Venus is how we love, and etc. Let's start slow and do something a little bit easy. Instead of this, let's narrow it down to this.
My moon is in the sign Scorpio. If the moon governs our emotional world and the way that we feel and perceive the things around us, and Scorpio governs the occult, death, taboo, and we pair them together, we can assume I am a person who experiences the world very deeply. Here's another one from my personal planets we could do. If the planet Mars governs our aggression, how we go after our goals, and our instinctive urges, and it is in the sign Leo, we can assume I am the kind of person who is very forward and is very hardworking when it comes to reaching the goals that I want in my life. With all of that in mind, instead of this, we can look at the birth chart like this. Let's go and refer back to that other easier to understand chart to help you better interpret this one. If we were to read this placement on my birth chart, it would look like this in the solar system. Using symbols only, we know that my Venus is in Gemini because the circle here represents the symbol for Gemini, while the circle here represents the symbol for Venus. They're sitting in the same space, making my Venus the planet in the sign of Gemini.
It's important you have a really good understanding of everything that I've mentioned so far, as believe it or not, what I've mentioned by now barely scratches the surface in terms of interpreting your birth chart and the house system. So we will be moving forward now. Birth chart section. What is that? What is a birth chart? As you know, right now in the solar system, planets are orbiting around the sun. When you are born, those planets, wherever they were at the exact minute you were born, become frozen in time and snapshotted, and that is your birth chart. As you can see, a birth chart looks very similar to the snapshot of the solar system at the time of your birth, and the day of your birth, from a bird's eye view. That's because it is literally a snapshot. It is literally where the planets were at the time of your birth. That is how your chart is determined. This is confusing. I don't expect you to understand this, so instead, let's look at it like this.
You're probably asking yourself, what is going on? Well, in a birth chart, the sun is not the center of it, okay? It's the earth. That is why your sun gets to sit at the lunch table with all the other planets. That's not true in the solar system. We know that. But we're talking about astrology. Now, if you are still here, which makes you stronger than most, you're probably like, this is why astrology is made up. No, there's actually a very specific reason why your sun gets to be thrown in there. It's because of your rising sign. I'll explain that in a moment. Your rising sign is representative of where the sun was at on the horizon at the moment of your birth. It represents how you navigate the world and how people perceive you when you first meet them. For example, although I am a Cancer, my ascendant or rising sign is in Libra. When people first meet me, they probably think I'm friendly and trying to keep the peace. Libra likes to mediate and keep the peace. Some astrologers believe that you embody the energy of your ascendant most when you are younger, and you embody it less as you grow.
It is the fateful day of June 28th, 2004. We are midsummer, and it's 12 p.m. And my mother is having contractions. It's 12 p.m., and then it's 1 p.m., and then it's 2:44 p.m., and I come out, and the sun stops right here. I am a Libra rising.
So, we have claimed Libra as our rising sign. We're actually going to move Libra over here. Libra sits on the horizon of your birth chart.
The ascendant, otherwise known as the rising sign that we determined was Libra, always sits in the middle left-hand side of the chart. So, given everything we know, I am a Libra ascendant because the sun was there on the horizon when I was born. As you can see, the sun in my birth chart looks similar because it is exactly where the sun was at on the horizon in what I showed you earlier.
Your rising sign is important because it determines the placement of your planets in each house. Your first house in your birth chart begins with your ascendant, and every other house in your birth chart is determined by it as it goes in chronological order. Since my ascendant is Libra, my first house is ruled by Libra. My second house is ruled by Scorpio. My third house is ruled by Sagittarius. My fourth house is ruled by Capricorn, and so on.
Okay, houses. Houses are where the planets in your birth chart live. They are their homes, and there's 12 of them. And each house has a theme. Here's this visual for you to understand the themes of each house.
Do you guys remember this from when we were speaking earlier? And how we turned it into this? And then we said that it was actually this? Well, none of that was true because it's actually this. But this is hard, so let's actually just go back to this. We figured out that my planet Venus was in the sign Gemini. But now we have that little 8 down there. Using the chart I showed you earlier, what's the 8th house? Well, it deals with sex, death, letting go, regeneration, wealth, inheritance, sex, things of this nature. Each house also has the themes of the zodiac sign that rules it. So, scorpionic themes in the 8th house would be pretty intense. Scorpio is an intense sign. If my Venus, the planet of love, is in the 8th house, my love life will probably be very transformative and intense and crazy. However, be mindful not to forget that it's still ruled by a zodiac sign. So if we were to put all of it together, it would be, I have a Venus in Gemini in the 8th house.
I think I just pooped on the couch.
It is at this point I will look for my favorite astrologers and have them interpret all of that shit for me. It takes a really long time to be able to interpret astrology yourself, guys. I've been learning this for 10 years and I confused myself making this video.